Captain Marcus Hale had seen many strange things in his life among the stars, but never this. In all his years of service, through wars and peace treaties, through blood and metal, he had never seen an alien beg. The Thrixians were a proud species, tall, silver-skinned, and known for their calm intelligence. They were leaders in medicine and technology, far ahead of humans in almost every way. They rarely spoke with emotion, and they never bowed to anyone. Yet now, one of them was on his knees before a human. Marcus stood frozen in the medical bay of the Unity Station, a place where humans and aliens met to heal the wounds of a long war. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and ozone. In front of him, the Thrixian ambassador, an important figure in the Galactic Union, was kneeling beside his wife. Both of them looked broken, their bright eyes dimmed by fear. Between them lay a small figure on a floating stretcher, thin, fragile, and barely breathing. Their daughter. She was so small. Her pale blue skin shimmered faintly under the medbay lights. A child of a species that considered emotion weakness, yet her parents trembled like any mother and father would. "Human," the ambassador said, his voice cracking through the translator. "We will give you anything, wealth, technology, a world. Anything you want, just please, save her." The words hit Marcus like a shockwave. The Thrixians never begged, they commanded. Yet this man, who could end Marcus's career with a single word, was pleading for his child's life. Marcus slowly approached the stretcher and looked down. The child's chest rose weakly, the faint pulse of her life fading. Her blood had strange blue veins glowing through her skin. Radiation poisoning. He looked over the scan reports. The Thrixian immune system couldn't handle the radiation that had spread through her body. None of their advanced medicine could fix it. The energy inside her was tearing her cells apart. Marcus swallowed hard. He had seen this before. Humans who had worked near reactor leaks dying slowly, their bodies betraying them. But humans were tougher. Their biology adapted to pain in strange ways. Their immune systems, though simple, were stubborn. He remembered once saving a soldier using an old Earth method: bone marrow stem cells, transfusions, and a lot of luck. He looked up at the desperate faces of the alien parents. "I can't promise anything," he said softly. "But I'll try." The Thrixian mother's lower hands clasped together in a trembling gesture Marcus had never seen. "Try," she whispered. "Please." Marcus didn't understand why they trusted him, a simple human doctor among hundreds of alien physicians. Maybe it was because humans never stopped fighting, even when logic said it was hopeless. He placed his hand gently on the child's arm. Her skin was cold, almost metallic. For a moment her eyes fluttered open. They were like tiny blue suns, fading but still alive. She looked at him weakly and whispered one small word in her native tongue. The translator blinked and whispered it back in English. "Help." Something deep inside Marcus hardened. He had heard that word too many times before. From soldiers, from civilians, from dying friends. But this time it came from a child who should have been safe. He straightened up and said quietly, "Prepare the human medical kit. Clear the room." No interruptions. The alien medics hesitated. "You alone?" one of them asked, disbelief in his voice. Marcus looked at the ambassador. "If you want her to live, trust me." The Thrixian leader looked into the human's eyes for a long moment. What he saw there, determination, fire, and something he didn't understand, made him nod slowly. "Do what you must," he said. As the doors sealed behind them, Marcus rolled up his sleeves. The machines around him hummed to life, but this battle wouldn't be won by machines. It would be won by human stubbornness, human heart, and the refusal to give up when everyone else already had. The little alien girl's pulse was fading fast. He began working, hands moving quickly but gently, and for the first time in galactic history, an alien's life rested in human hands, not because of power or science, but because of hope. Marcus Hale had spent 2 days without sleep. His eyes were red, his hands trembling, but he didn't care. The little Thrixian girl was still alive, and that was reason enough to keep going. The alien doctors had offered their help, but Marcus refused. Their technology was perfect, their methods flawless, but perfection didn't matter when life itself was slipping away. Machines could measure pain, but they couldn't feel it. Only humans understood what it meant to fight through it. He leaned over the table, checking the monitors again. The child's body was weak. Her blood cells were breaking down, her organs failing one by one. The Thrixians had already given up before calling him. To them, the data was clear, no chance of survival. But humans didn't live by data. They lived by hope. Marcus had started using something the Thrixians had called primitive. He drew a sample of her blood and mixed it with human stem cells. The alien medic stared through the glass window, confused and horrified. To them, it looked reckless, unscientific. But Marcus had seen miracles happen from desperation before. He injected the mixture carefully. "Come on, kid," he murmured. "Don't quit on me now." Her small chest rose, then fell again. The beeping on the monitor slowed. Marcus felt a cold wave of fear. He pressed his hand gently against her arm, speaking softly even though she couldn't hear him. "Breathe," he whispered. "You're stronger than you think." He remembered another day, years ago, during the siege of Titan. A young soldier had been dying in his arms, lungs crushed, ribs broken. The machines had said it was over. But Marcus kept working, whispering to the man to hold on. Somehow, against all odds, he did. Humans were strange like that. They survived things that should have killed them. The Thrixian ambassador and his wife waited outside. The mother's silver hands trembled. The father stared blankly at the wall, whispering words in his own language that sounded like prayers. They didn't understand why Marcus stayed in that room hour after hour. No Thrixian doctor would risk his life like that for a child who wasn't his. But Marcus didn't think like them. He didn't see an alien. He saw a little girl who deserved a chance. After another long hour, the monitors finally changed. Her pulse steadied. The faint blue glow in her veins began to fade. Marcus exhaled, relief flooding through him. He leaned against the wall, exhausted. Sweat rolled down his face. "She's fighting," he said quietly. "She's really fighting." When he stepped outside, the ambassador rushed to him. "What happened?" "Is she?" "She's alive," Marcus said. "But not safe yet. Her body's adapting to the human cells. It'll take time." The Thrixian mother's eyes glistened. "You gave her your strength," she whispered. Marcus shook his head. "No," he said softly. "She found her own." The ambassador bowed low, a gesture no human had ever seen from his kind. "You have done what even our greatest healers could not. Tell me, human, what do you want in return?" Marcus looked at the small room behind him. Inside, the little girl slept peacefully, her breathing steady at last. "Nothing," he said simply. "She's just a kid." The ambassador looked confused. "Nothing? You could ask for anything, riches, power, even a planet." Marcus smiled tiredly. "I don't need a planet. I just need her to wake up." The alien father stared at him, trying to understand the strange emotion that burned behind the human's eyes. It wasn't logic. It wasn't science. It was something deeper, something the Thrixians couldn't name. Before leaving, Marcus sat by the girl again. Her small hand rested in his palm, cold but alive. "Keep fighting," he whispered. "You're almost there." Outside the window, the Thrixian parents watched in silence. They had traveled across galaxies for help, spent fortunes on technology. But in the end, it was a tired human, using nothing but old tools and sheer will, who had given their daughter a chance at life. And for the first time in their proud history, the Thrixians began to understand what humans truly were. Creatures who could face the impossible, not because they were the smartest or the strongest, but because they refused to stop trying. That night, under the hum of the medbay lights, one small alien child began to heal, and one human's heart began to change an entire world. The following days were long and silent inside the medbay. Machines hummed softly, their lights blinking like stars in the dark room. Captain Marcus Hale hardly left the child's side. He ate little, slept less, and spent every waking moment watching over her. The Thrixian girl's name was Lyria. She was the ambassador's only daughter, his entire world. Her fragile body was still weak, but the signs of healing had begun. The blue glow under her skin had dimmed. Her breathing was no longer shallow. Every heartbeat sounded like a small victory. Marcus often talked to her even when she couldn't respond. It wasn't part of any medical procedure, but he believed it mattered. "Hey kid," he said softly one evening. "You're doing great. You just keep fighting, all right? Humans never quit, remember that." He told her stories of Earth, of oceans that stretched forever, of forests that whispered in the wind, of little things like chocolate, rain, and dogs that chased their tails for no reason at all. He didn't know if she could hear him, but it made the silence less heavy. Outside the glass wall, the Thrixian parents watched. They didn't understand this human habit of talking to an unconscious patient. To them it seemed strange, almost foolish. But they noticed something. Every time Marcus spoke, the girl's heart rate steadied, her breathing became calmer. Somehow she was responding. One night, when the station's lights dimmed to simulate sleep hours, Marcus heard a soft sound. He turned quickly. The girl's fingers twitched. Then her eyelids fluttered open just a little. Her eyes, bright blue like polished crystals, moved weakly toward him. "Hey," Marcus said gently, trying not to show his shock. "You're awake." Her lips parted slightly. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Marcus leaned closer, his voice low and calm. "Don't try to talk yet. Just rest." Her fingers moved again, and with effort she touched his hand. It was a weak, trembling touch, but to Marcus it felt like a spark of life. Then with a faint voice that cracked like wind, she whispered one small Thrixian word. The translator beeped once and spoke. "Thank you." Marcus froze. For a moment, all the exhaustion, all the stress of the past days melted away. His eyes burned, and he quickly looked down so no one would see. "You're welcome, kid," he whispered. "You did the hard part." When he stepped out of the medbay, the ambassador and his wife were waiting. The mother ran to him, tears in her eyes, and placed her hands over his. "She spoke?" she asked in disbelief. Marcus nodded. "Just a few words. But she's waking up." The ambassador's composure cracked. He turned away for a moment, wiping his eyes. His voice was low, full of awe. "You gave her strength." Marcus shook his head. "No, she had it all along. I just reminded her what fighting feels like." The Thrixians didn't have a word for hope. Their culture believed in logic and precision, in control and reason. But as they looked through the glass at their daughter's small form, a new emotion grew inside them, one they had never needed before. Over the next few days, Lyraya grew stronger. She started breathing on her own, then moving her hands, then eating small portions of food. Marcus kept visiting her even after his shifts ended. Sometimes she would smile faintly when he entered the room, and that small smile felt more rewarding than any medal or rank. He brought her a tiny earth toy, a small plastic bird that flapped its wings when pressed. She stared at it curiously, then giggled softly, a sound that made the medbay feel alive again. When the ambassador saw his daughter laugh, he placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You're kind," he said slowly. "You bring warmth where logic brings only cold." Marcus didn't know how to respond. He only smiled. That night, as he walked back to his quarters, he looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere among them were countless worlds filled with cold, silent perfection. But humans carried something else into the void, something no machine or empire could create. Compassion. And in that small, quiet room with one recovering alien child, compassion had done what the universe's greatest technology could not. Weeks had passed, and Lyraya was finally strong enough to leave the medbay. She still walked slowly, her small steps careful, but she was alive. The Thrixian ambassador had called Marcus to his private chamber, a room filled with shimmering crystals, glowing softly under alien lights. The walls pulsed with energy, and the air smelled faintly of ozone and strange flowers. It was a room made for leaders, a place where power and wealth were displayed openly. Marcus stepped in quietly. The ambassador was waiting, standing tall despite the exhaustion and fear he had carried for weeks. His wife was beside him, holding Lyraya gently. The girl looked at Marcus, eyes wide, and for the first time she smiled freely. "You have saved my daughter," the ambassador said, voice heavy with gratitude. "She is alive because of you," Marcus nodded. "She's strong. You taught her to fight by letting me help her." The ambassador's hands gestured toward the crystals. "You have done more than that. You have saved the heir of House Thrix. Anything you desire can be yours. Wealth, technology, a planet even. Name it and it will be done." Marcus paused. His eyes flicked over the room. The Thrixians could offer him treasures no human had ever seen. They could make him rich, give him power beyond imagination, place him above kings and emperors. But he thought of Earth. He thought of the colonies still struggling, of the soldiers and children who didn't have enough medicine, enough food, enough hope. He thought of the human doctors who had died trying to save them, and the hospitals that could never see enough supplies. I don't want riches, Marcus said quietly. I don't want power. I don't want anything for myself. The ambassador blinked, not understanding. Nothing? He asked. You could ask for the stars, for anything you could imagine, and you ask for nothing? Marcus looked down at Lariah, who was holding his hand gently. Her small grip reminded him why he had risked everything. If you really want to repay me, he said softly, share your healing technology with humanity. Let your medicine save my people too. That's all I ask. The ambassador's eyes widened. He took a step back, shock written across his proud face. You ask not for yourself, but for your kind? Marcus nodded. That's what humans do. We survive, and when we can, we help others survive too. The ambassador's wife placed her hand on her husband's arm. He saved our daughter, and he asks for nothing but to help others. The ambassador shook his head slowly, a mixture of awe and disbelief on his face. Your people, your kind. It is unlike anything we have ever known. You risk your life without thought of reward. You see value in life itself. Marcus shrugged, tired but steady. Life is precious. That's why we fight no matter what. For the first time, the ambassador understood something about humans that no history book or report could teach him. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the smartest, but they had something the universe often forgot. Heart, courage, compassion that did not wait for reward. Lariah giggled softly, tugging on Marcus's sleeve. She didn't know about wealth or power or politics. She only knew the man who had saved her life. Marcus knelt to her level. See, you're getting stronger every day. Soon you'll be running around faster than me. She smiled. And in that small smile, Marcus saw the future, a bridge between worlds, built not with treaties or laws, but with simple human courage and care. The ambassador watched them silently, understanding at last. Perhaps this is what your people mean when they speak of honor, he said quietly. Marcus smiled faintly. It's what we mean when we speak of being human. In that quiet chamber, filled with alien light and human heart, a new chapter began, one where life was worth more than power, and compassion could reach across galaxies. The celebration of Lariah's recovery was short-lived. The Thrixian Council had heard about the ambassador's decision to share their medical technology with humans, and they were furious. In their culture, the Thrixians were the keepers of knowledge, protectors of their species' superiority. Sharing their secrets with primitive beings was considered not just reckless, but treason. Marcus learned of the Council's anger when a delegation arrived at Unity Station. The ambassador stood firm, his expression proud but tense. These humans saved my daughter, he said calmly. Their species is not weaker. They are strong in ways we cannot measure with machines or data. A counselor, tall and severe, stepped forward. You have broken the pact, she hissed. You have endangered our entire house by giving forbidden knowledge to the humans. Do you not see what you have done? The ambassador met her gaze steadily. I see exactly what I have done, he replied. I have given my daughter a chance to live, and I have honored a life-saving act with gratitude as any civilized being would. The counselors murmured among themselves, disbelief and anger filling the chamber. They could not understand why the ambassador would risk the prestige and power of his entire house for a single human. Marcus stood quietly to the side, observing. The Thrixians had power, advanced technology, and centuries of knowledge. Yet here they were, debating whether to punish a father for valuing life over pride. Humans rarely had such power, but they often understood the simplest truths better than anyone else. Life was precious, and love was worth any cost. The ambassador's wife took a step forward, her hands clasped. He saved our daughter, she said firmly. Would you rather she die because of your laws? A counselor sneered. Rules exist for a reason. Without them, chaos will spread. You have endangered the Thrixian future for sentiment. The ambassador's voice rose, calm but strong. And what is a future without those we love? What is progress if it cannot honor life? You speak of rules and laws, yet it is your fear that blinds you. Marcus was struck by the difference between humans and Thrixians. Humans argued, fought, and disagreed, yes, but at the heart of it, they valued life above all else. These aliens, brilliant as they were, had never faced such a simple truth. Love could outweigh logic, and courage could defy the strongest law. One young counselor, barely older than Lariah, stepped forward, his eyes wide. Father, this is dangerous. Do you not see the consequences? I see, the ambassador replied. That my daughter breathes today because a human did not give up. And if consequences are measured against her life, then I accept them all." The room fell silent. For the first time, the council realized the human had changed the balance not with power, but with simple, unwavering courage. Marcus felt a small hand tug at his sleeve. It was Lyraya. She had been watching from behind the ambassador's cloak. Her eyes, bright and determined, met his. She didn't speak, but he understood. She would fight too when she was ready. The councilors, still shaking with anger, left with warnings. The ambassador had lost his title temporarily. His honor among the council was questioned. But Marcus saw something else in the ambassador's eyes. Pride. Not the pride of power, but the pride of a father who had chosen life over law. Later, alone in the corridor, the ambassador turned to Marcus. "Perhaps this is what your people mean when they speak of honor," he said quietly. Marcus smiled faintly. "It's what we mean when we speak of being human," he replied. Even as the council threatened and plotted, Marcus realized something important. The universe often measured power in machines, armies, and knowledge, but humans measured it differently. They measured it in courage, in sacrifice, in the willingness to protect life even when all logic said it was impossible. And in that quiet realization, Marcus knew that he had already won a victory far greater than any medal or recognition could offer. He had changed the way an entire species viewed humanity. The seeds of respect had been planted, and soon, they would grow. The day Marcus Hale left Unity Station for Earth was quiet, almost painfully so. The med bay, once filled with the soft hum of machines and the occasional sound of Lyraya's weak laughter, was now silent. She was healthy, walking slowly but steadily, her small hand slipping into the ambassador's as they prepared to leave. Marcus stood in the airlock, looking at the stars. He had saved a life, a precious life, but he had also made enemies. The Thrixian Council still whispered of treason, still debated whether humans were trustworthy. He didn't care. What mattered was that Lyraya lived. That was enough. The little girl ran forward suddenly, her small legs carrying her faster than expected. "Captain Marcus," she called in broken Thrixian English. Marcus bent down just in time to catch her in his arms. She laughed, a clear, bright sound, and he felt something warm in his chest, a joy humans often carried in quiet moments like this. "You're fast," he said, smiling. "I might need to keep up with you if you keep growing like this." Her parents watched, their expressions a mixture of awe and gratitude. The ambassador's eyes met Marcus's for a long moment. "You gave her life," he said quietly. "Nothing can repay that." Marcus shook his head. "You don't owe me anything," he said softly. "The chance to live, that's enough." The journey back to Earth was long, and Marcus spent most of it in reflection. He thought about the children he had lost in the war, the countless lives that had slipped away before anyone could reach them. And now in a small corner of the galaxy, one little girl had survived, not because of technology, not because of wealth, but because of human stubbornness and heart. When the shuttle finally entered Earth's orbit, Marcus received a message from Lyraya herself. The small transmission showed her sitting up in a hospital bed aboard the Thrixian cruiser. Her eyes were bright and she waved at him. Behind her floated a banner glowing softly, "Hope is the strongest medicine." Marcus smiled. He didn't need wealth or recognition. He didn't need medals. That small phrase coming from a child of another species was enough. Hope was something humans gave freely, something they shared without expectation. And now that same hope had crossed an entire galaxy. The ambassador approached him later. "You have changed us," he said quietly. "You taught us that life cannot always be measured by logic, by law, by numbers. Sometimes it is measured by heart, by courage, by the refusal to give up." Marcus nodded. "Humans fight for each other," he said. "Even when it's hard, even when it seems hopeless. That's how we survive." Lyraya tugged on his sleeve again. "Captain Marcus," she said softly, "will you teach me to fight like humans?" He laughed, a deep, warm sound. "I think you're already learning," he said. "You've already fought the hardest battle. Now we'll learn together." The ambassador smiled, a rare, genuine smile that few humans had ever seen from his kind. "Perhaps this is how alliances are formed," he said. "Not with treaties or weapons, but with life itself." Marcus looked out the window at Earth below, a blue world full of oceans, forests, and cities. He thought of all the humans still fighting for survival, for hope, for life. And he knew that the lesson of Lariah, of her family, and of this small act of courage would ripple through the galaxy. When he finally returned to his quarters, Marcus sat down and allowed himself a moment to rest. The shuttle lights dimmed and the quiet hum of the station filled the room. He thought of the child he had saved, the family that had trusted him, and the truth he had always believed. Courage and heart could overcome almost anything. Somewhere far away, a little Thrixian girl slept peacefully, dreaming of Earth and the human who had given her life back. And somewhere in the galaxy, the human who had saved her smiled quietly, knowing that he had made a difference, not with power, not with technology, but with something far stronger, humanity. The universe would remember. Years passed, but the memory of that small alien girl and her brave parents never left Marcus Hale. Lariah had grown into a strong young Thrixian, curious and fearless, carrying both the wisdom of her people and the courage she had learned from humans. And somewhere in every corner of the galaxy, people remembered the human who had risked everything to save her. The Hale Initiative, named in his honor, had changed countless worlds. Humanity and Thrixians worked together to build medical facilities, share knowledge, and heal species that had never imagined hope could reach them. Technologies once jealously guarded were now used to save lives, not to hoard power. And it all began with a small human act of compassion. Marcus visited the Thrixian capital only once after Lariah's recovery. The ambassador greeted him with a proud smile. "You saved more than our daughter," he said. "You saved the future of our people. You showed us that strength is not always in power or logic, but in heart." Marcus shrugged, trying to hide his pride. "I just did what anyone would do," he said softly. "I saved a life. That's what matters," but the hall told a different story. A statue had been erected in the Hall of Unity, tall and elegant, carved from crystalline stone that shimmered under alien lights. It depicted a human kneeling beside a small alien girl, her tiny hand resting in his. Below it, an inscription read, "He asked for nothing and gave us everything." Even counselors who had once opposed the ambassador now stood in quiet reverence. They had seen the truth. Humans were not just survivors, they were teachers of courage, champions of hope, and carriers of a strength that could not be measured with machines. Lariah herself often visited Marcus. She had grown tall and confident, her eyes still carrying the same bright blue sparkle that had once begged for life. "Captain Marcus," she said one day, "I want to heal like you. I want to fight like you. I want to save others just as you saved me." Marcus smiled, placing his hand gently on hers. "You already have," he said. "You fought harder than I could. I just guided you. Now it's your turn to carry that courage forward." The ambassador watched from nearby, silent but proud. "It is strange," he said softly. "A human taught us more about life than all our laws and machines. Perhaps this is why your kind is feared, and yet admired. You remind us of something we had almost forgotten." Marcus shook his head. "Humans don't do it for admiration," he said. "We do it because it's right. Life is worth the fight." The words traveled across galaxies, whispered among scientists, leaders, and children alike. On planets where hope had been lost, humans and Thrixians together brought healing. The story of a small girl and the man who saved her inspired generations. It reminded everyone that even in the darkest times, courage, kindness, and stubborn persistence could change the universe. Marcus often thought of Earth when he looked at these developments. He thought of children surviving famine because of new treatments, of soldiers returning home healed, of colonies thriving where once they had failed. And in each success, he saw a reflection of that tiny Thrixian girl, lying in a medbay, clinging to life. He had asked for nothing, yet the gift he had given and received was immeasurable. The universe had learned that humanity, despite its flaws, had a strength unmatched, the strength to hope, to fight, and to save lives when all others had given up. Long after he was gone, the story of Marcus Hale remained. Children of humans and Thrixians alike grew up hearing it. The tale of a human who faced impossible odds and refused to surrender. A human whose heart and courage became a bridge between worlds, and somewhere beyond the stars, the little girl he saved, now grown, wise, and fearless, taught others what she had learned from him. That the greatest power in the universe is not technology, armies or wealth, but compassion, courage, and the refusal to give up. Humanity, in its simplest and purest form, had left a mark on the stars.